Okay, can you hear me, folks? You raise your hand on your dashboard if you can hear me. We're working on this video thing.
Got a yes.
Woohoo! Success. Wow. We love and appreciate your patience with us. All right, so we're going to get started all over again. Thanks you all for your patience with that. There was a challenge with the setup in the webinar, and we'll make sure we don't repeat that again. So we're going to get started. We're a little bit behind, and we appreciate your patience. Most of you, I hope, have downloaded the quick links guide. That was a handout loaded here. We're going to be talking today. My name is Donna Albaugh, and I'm here at DPI with some of my colleagues. I work in Western North Carolina as a consultant in support of the NC-K3 formative assessment process. And in the room with me,
I'm Nikki Galloway. I am the regional consultant for the Northwest region for the K3 formative assessment process. And I'm Cindy Dewey, and I serve the Piedmont Triad region. And I'm Amy Scrinsey. I'm one of the project leads for this work. So welcome, everybody.
Yes, welcome, everyone. So we know that many of you are already getting your school year started, those of you in year-round programs, and we're hopeful that today we'll share content with you that will help inform your work as you support teachers. And we're going to get started today with just our webinar goals. So we're working today on three main components. We're going to talk about KEA requirements today. Some strategies and support that you might use to help your teachers as they're implementing kindergarten entry assessment component of the larger NC-K3 formative assessment process. And certainly some things that you're going to want to look for as your teachers are engaging in this process in classrooms as you observe. And for that reason, we ask that folks download the administrator practice profile. That was one of the quick links that were provided to you in the handout. And then finally, we're going to spend some time talking about a statewide system of support that's here to provide help and assistance to you as you do your work in support of teachers in your building. So the questions were, well, we figured that one out, haven't we, guys? As you all gave us great feedback about not having audio, and we thank you for that. Continue to input any questions, and we're going to provide feedback to you as we are able to do that. So let's get started with KEA requirements for 2016-17. So as many of you know, the KEA, the Kindergarten Entry Assessment, was implemented statewide last year. And teachers were gathering evidence and using the formative assessment process throughout the school year. We're in phase 2. So in the 2016-17 school year, for those of you who have already started on year-round program schedules, as well as those of you who are going to be starting in the near future with traditional programs, we want you all to be aware that this school year, KEA will include all 5 domains of learning and development. So on the left side of this screen, you'll see those 5 domains. On the right side of this screen, you will see those required construct progressions that our teachers will be assessing and using that formative assessment process throughout the school year to collect evidence, to inform instruction, to support students as they develop criteria for success for their own learning, and how you use this information. So I want to point out item 5. So this year, our teachers will be assessing the domain of health and physical development with kindergartners. Item 4 on the right side of that column, fine motor. That's required for all teachers in kindergarten of this year. But 5 is a choice. So each LEA will provide guidance to teachers and you building leaders as you all make decisions around that choice. And there's a letter that stipulated this that came from our director, John Pruitt. I'm going to share that with you in just a moment. I do want to point out this pop-up here on the left side of the screen. LEAs may also choose to include the constructs related to book orientation and print awareness this school year. That is an option. That decision was made in response to the feedback that folks, constituents in the field provided to the agency, and as a result of that feedback, it's been determined that is optional. Now, various districts are choosing their own path with regard to that. Some of the districts that I support in Western North Carolina, those LEAs have decided that they will in fact require that of kindergarten teachers because they want that data point. So there are other LEAs that might be doing things differently across the state. But I want you to know that book orientation, print awareness, is an option for kindergarten teachers this year in phase 2 of KEA. So post questions if you have questions about that, if that's the first time you're hearing that. And that information was made public through a letter dated April 5th of 2016. Your regional consultants helped to disseminate that letter. John Pruitt directly sent that out to the NC K-3 Formative Assessment District contact folks. An important part of this process, ladies and gentlemen, is the use of that platform. We understand that it's an integral part of that assessment process, and in this letter, and we'll show you how to access that letter in just a moment, John provides some guidance around that as well. So we know that KEA is just one component of a much larger NC K-3 formative assessment process. And many of you are aware that there are districts across the state who are engaging in a usability study, and we're looking at a more broad scope of how we're going to scale up this formative assessment process, kindergarten to grade 3. We know the power of formative assessment, the implications, the data, the research are definitely clear on that, and we want to provide the guidance and support to get that work done comprehensively K-3. For this year with KEA, we just wanted to make note that you know, this work continues beyond the 60th day, but there are requirements, and one of those requirements is that each student in kindergarten have a status summary in place in the platform. And those dates for submitting those status summaries for completion are in that very bottom row, 2016-17. Now those completion dates are going to vary. They're going to vary based on start dates for schools. We have some year-round programs that start very early in July and some that start a little bit later. So contingent upon start dates, you'll find those completion dates here in this document. And again, we're going to make this PowerPoint, this slide deck available to you all. It's going to be posted for your access, so you'll be able to get to all of this information beyond this webinar. And it's also being recorded so you can get to the archives. So one critical part of what we're able to do here at the agency to support you and what you're doing to support your teachers is to provide some great resources. One of the greatest assets that you have available to you regionally is within each region of the state, there is a regional consultant to support your work. And those regional consultants are one of your first you know, points of contact as you need support as district implementation teams work to implement the formative assessment process across school districts and within building implementation teams. These are the points of contact who can support you. So be sure that you've met your regional consultant and you've had an opportunity to communicate with that individual. So a really important resource as well that we want to draw your attention to is this Data and Account Integration Access Guide. This document was sent directly to data managers across the state, and I read the entire document. It's a useful document. You have teachers who may be challenged with getting logged on to the platform. There's some guidance within this document that will support with that, with problem solving around that. In addition, there are the information for how you reach the help desk. So if you have challenges with the online platform, that help desk number is available to you. We do want to make a mention that the help desk has been reinforced. So we're looking forward to your services and the support that's being provided to you all as you reach out to the help desk to be a great deal more fruitful for you. So again, if you need additional support with online platform, your regional consultants are there for you as well. All right, so this slide, we're going to take a little detour, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because we're a little bit behind due to the fact that we got started late with the audio issues. But I want to share with you some of the just great resources that you can use and materials that are available to support you with supporting teachers. One of the things that I want to encourage you to disseminate widely is that handout, that quick links guide that was provided as a handout at the beginning of this webinar. Push that out to folks that you support in the work that you do. Another great resource, and I know that most of you are familiar with this one at this point, is Wiki Central. So if you're not familiar with Wiki Central, it is Symbaloo. It's a web-based tool that provides access through tiles that are in a very large database, if you will. So what I encourage you to do, if you're not familiar with Wiki Central, simply open any web browser and do a search for NCDPI Wiki Central. When you do, you're going to see a group of tiles, and I want you to look for the tile with two little children holding hands. That's the tile that represents this body of work. So I'm going to click on that tile, and you'll see that Wiki Central, the Symbaloo, opens. So this is a statewide Symbaloo, a collection of tiles. So when you click on these tiles, it'll take you to lots of great support resources. But the one we're featuring today, of course, is K3 Formative Assessment. So you're going to look for those two children, and when you click there, I want to point out a page that we've created and dedicated exclusively for those of you who are building leaders. So if you're the instructional leader, the principal, the assistant principal, when you click on that tile in Wiki Central, you're going to come to this landing page, the home page for our wiki for this work, for the K3 Formative Assessment process. But on the left navigation bar, I want you to notice that there's an admin resource page. So if you open that admin resource page, you're going to see again your ability to access the quick links guide. We're going to take the audio recording and the video recording here from today's webinar, and we're going to post it. The PowerPoint slide deck that we're referencing throughout this webinar will all, and any of the questions that are archived from today's webinar. There are other documents that are very useful to you. One that we specifically want to note, because Nikki's going to work with you in just a moment, and you're going to be taking a look at this admin practice profile. It's a great resource for you as a principal. Most of my career in education was as a principal, and I will tell you that some of the biggest challenges for myself as an admin was really working to coach and support. So as you're coaching teachers, this admin practice profile will give you great probing questions and look-fors as you do the great work you're doing to support teachers. All right, so that is our wiki space available to you at Wiki Central. I'm coming out of that, coming out of the Symbaloo, and that brings us back to our resources page. One other resource I want to quickly open and just take you through is this Weebly. So Weebly is a free web-based tool. We don't endorse any web-based tools at NCDPI. That's just a resource that we chose to use to create a way for you to navigate and get support information. This particular website is dedicated exclusively to kindergarten entry assessment. The NCDPI KEA.weebly.com. And when you open this website, each of these are navigable if you'll look at the top bar. And I want to specifically show you this technology page. So if I click on that link and I scroll to the bottom as that page opens, what you're going to find are just really great support tools. If your teachers aren't really able to get that evidence app to download to their phone or to their iPad or whatever device, tablet they're using, here's some guidance. Click on that Learn More button and you'll get additional guidance. In addition, that technology users guide I just spoke to you about and shared, if you'll just click there, you can simply download that technology user guide. If I was back in the principal seat again, I would tell you that I would download this document, print it out, and I would walk right over to my data manager's office and I would share it with her or him and encourage that person to be sure that we're doing PowerSchool data integration correctly. part of some of the challenges that folks faced with using the online platform last year were related to the PowerSchool data integration. Teachers have to have an email address, folks, so ask your data managers to be keen on that, to ensure that email addresses are in place in PowerSchool, and just check some of those things so that we can support our teachers with getting started off on the right foot. All right, that kind of covers some of those resources. And now Nikki's going to talk to you about implementation practices. Nikki?
Great, thank you. So I'm just going to share with you a few things that you as administrators will find helpful as you're supporting teachers in your building. The first document I want to show you is a document that defines the 5 critical components of the formative assessment process. So this is going to help you as you think about the questions, what is this and what is expected in terms of implementation. This document defines each of the 5 critical components of the process and then gives some description of the expected implementation in that right-hand column. All of these resources that I'm sharing are linked in the quick links guide that Donna shared with you.
And I'm also placing them in the chat box, the direct link.
Great. So Cindy's putting the direct links to each of these in the chat box for you as well. Related to the critical components document is this document, which we call the self-reflection tool. The intention of this particular resource is for teachers primarily to be able to think about each of the critical components of the formative assessment process and to what extent they have those pieces in place in their classroom. So they could self-assess. I've got this in place, I've got this partially in place, or not in place yet. This is something that I need some support with. So as teachers use this self-reflection tool, it'll provide you as an administrator with some information about what that teacher would like some support with in terms of implementing the formative assessment process in her classroom. So helping teachers and you answer the question, how do I know when I'm implementing the full process? This is the administrator practice profile that Donna mentioned earlier as something that you may want to download. Now, this is another document that, that fleshes out some of that information about the expected implementation of the critical components of the formative assessment process. But in addition, for administrators, this particular version of the practice profile gives look-fors and open-ended questions. So that left-hand column on this document gives you, as an instructional leader, some information about what you might be looking for when you're observing in a classroom, kinds of questions that you might ask teachers and students in the classroom about what's going on, and with that information, you'll be able to support your teachers in getting better and better at implementing this process and really using it to inform their instruction and support their children right where they are. So we're going to take just a quick few minutes to practice. There are 5 critical components to the formative assessment process. But with this practice that we're about to do, I'm going to highlight 2 of those critical components. So one critical component that I want you to be thinking about is developing criteria for success. And if you look in the blue box on the right, you'll see some very brief definitions of what these 2 particular critical components are dealing with. So developing criteria for success. This is when teacher models strategies or explains explicitly to students, this is what it'll look like when you meet this learning target. When you succeed in doing the thing that we're trying to do, this is what it'll look like. And another critical component of the process is adapting and responding to learning needs. That includes in-the-moment descriptive feedback about what the student is doing and what the student could do in addition to meet the learning target. So I'm going to show you a quick video, 58 seconds, of a teacher engaging in the morning meeting. A kindergarten teacher with her students, and they're doing a quick morning meeting activity. And there are a lot of things to observe about the formative assessment process in this 1 minute worth of instructional time. Some questions to think about as we move into the video. I'm going to share these questions with you now, and then we'll revisit them after watching the video. But I want you to think about what modeling the teacher does to help Brody, that's the student in the video, to help Brody and his classmates understand how to meet the learning target. So think about her modeling. And then also, what descriptive feedback does the teacher provide to Brody to elicit further responses from him? Here's our morning meeting video. Let's take just a minute to watch this.
This question is for Brody. How many words are there, Brody? Come up and count. Come count. Count. I can count. Don't count the words. Okay, he's counting. You're counting a lot. Letters. He's counting the letters. Watch this, and you're right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters. He's right about that, isn't he? Watch this, Brody. Words. 1, 2, 3. Oh, got that matching though.
All right. Hope you were able to hear the interaction there between the teacher and Brody. They're engaging in a little bit of print awareness activity. And so let's revisit the questions that that I shared with you just a moment ago. Let's think together. What did this teacher do to model the ways that the student could demonstrate that he's met the learning target in this video? And what feedback did she provide? What questions, probes, and prompts did she provide to elicit responses from Brody? I'm going to give you just a minute to think about that, and then if you would, type your thoughts into the chat box, and we can share with one another. So I see some things coming into the chat box about the teacher pointing to letters as she counted letters, pointing to words as she counted to words. She gave good positive feedback and redirection. So that's what I think of when I think of responding to learning needs. She noticed in the moment that Brody wasn't counting words, and so she adjusted her instruction to illustrate that distinction for him between counting letters and counting words, and included his classmates in that discussion of what exactly he was counting.
It was such a nice way to model that criteria for success. Here's what he's doing, the criteria that he's met, and here's what the success criteria are.
Anything else you noticed about the descriptive feedback that the teacher provided? She acknowledged his appropriate counting. That's true, and that's important. That the positive feedback and the pointing out to the students the parts that they're doing well, and then modeling the parts that they're still working to achieve is all part of the process.
A key part of formative assessment, students know where they are, their current learning status, and where they need to go next, their learning target. And we're just really clear about that.
Right. I think also a lot of you seem to notice when she acknowledges his appropriate, or what he is doing well, it really maintains a positive attitude for that whole group of students, in my opinion. And acknowledging kids' strengths is a really important part of supporting them to get to that next step.
We've worked with administrators is that this piece, what I've heard administrators say is this is where the rubber meets the road. This part of the success criteria and the adapting and responding, we have data. It's what is the next step? What is it that we want to do with our data in classrooms, the adapting and responding, this descriptive feedback, that piece of it, observing and supporting teachers as they learn that descriptive feedback part, and adjusting instruction has been really critical to have some discussion around.
One question about giving more information to Brody about spacing, right? Just about making sure he understands that a word is that group of letters surrounded by white space, right? That's the definition of a word in print. So I think that would be great descriptive feedback for Brody as well. All right, I think we'll go ahead and continue. We'll move on now. And I appreciate you guys participating and adding in your thinking about what we saw in the video. And now I'm going to turn it over to Cindy, and she's going to share some information about our statewide system of support.
So we're going to go just big picture view now and how this all comes together from the classroom teacher up to what's happening at the state level so that we have this statewide system of support. And we want to ensure that everyone knows what's happening as we move forward. So statewide system of support. In January, Dr. June Atkinson, in one of her weekly newsletters, launched this new way of work at DPI to talk about statewide system of support and explained our partnership with SysEP, which is the State Implementation and Scaling Up of Evidence-Based Practices Center. The point here is we just want to inform the field that we are really being thoughtful about the way we're rolling out new innovation so that we can provide you the support that you need. So I want to talk a little bit about that so that you are aware of the structures that we're putting in place to best meet your needs. One of those things are implementation teams. The reasoning behind this is we have some research that shows how effective working from a team perspective can be. You see this graph, you can see that without implementation teams, the people on the left, and with implementation teams, those blue people on the right, there's a significant difference there. So if we aren't using implementation teams, if we have one person carrying the baton for this work versus an implementation team working together, we can see what these differences look like. So what that means on the left, if we're letting this happen, we provide some training and say, go forth to our folks. It can take the lifetime of a student, the educational lifetime of the student, 17 years, to get to 14% fidelity with an implementation. The comparison to that is those blue people on the right, where we can get in 3 years to 80% fidelity with an innovation that we're implementing. So teams matter. So here's the teaming structure that we are working to put in place with our infrastructure at DPI. From building implementation teams that work directly with our students, all the way to the state implementation team, and the purposeful and thoughtful structures we're putting in place to best meet your needs. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about today are just what those little blue arrows mean. The blue arrows represent that back and forth feedback loop. What that means for us is, and for you all, is that we want to ensure that we're putting these structures in place that are effective, especially in terms of communication. So ensuring that we have communication that's flowing effectively between teams is important to the process. One of those things is to ensure that we have a designated contact at the school level, at the district level, at the regional level, state level. So Donna was talking earlier about understanding, knowing who your human contact, right, the human resources are, knowing who your regional implementation team members are, and your consultant in the region. They are your contact. So is there a designated contact person at the school level that is communicating with the district level? Is there a, do you know who you designated that person? So here's what that does for us. Having those designated people who are communicating. Donna, do you mind going back just one slide?
Sure.
So having those designated people who are communicating those and creating those feedback loops between teams, what that allows is for a community of knowledge and capacity to be developed at each level. It allows teachers to know that their voices are heard from the building level to the district level to the state level. And then to share what's working and what's not as new innovations are being implemented. It allows administrators to hear from their teachers and to provide recent and relevant, actionable information back to teachers. It allows regional and state teams to provide recent and relevant, actionable information to district teams. So using this systematic protocol with designated contact people avoids wide variations in support and information for educators across building and district teams. So take a moment and just identify where you are in the process of a statewide system of support. We have 4 regional implementation teams. Identify who the leaders are on those teams and ensure that you know their names. And the next slide will show you how to contact them again. So ensure you know who your regional contact person is and how to get in touch with them. So this helps with those blue arrows. Implementation tools connect teams. So when I think about how we stay connected, one of the things that I think about is watching my younger brother and how his team would run relay races together. One of the important things that they needed was a baton to pass from runner to runner. And then they were able to run quickly and have an effective race. They didn't all have to sprint the entire race, right? They passed the baton from runner to runner and they were efficient. So we also need tools as we pass information from team to team. So I want you to think about that and what this means for you as an administrator. So what does this mean for you? You might be sitting there thinking, what does this mean to me? These communication structures, this infrastructure that's getting put into place. As instructional leaders, these are the questions we think about. What PD is needed? What policies or schedules are causing barriers for my teachers? Do teachers have the support they need? There are lots of ways that you all are supporting the teachers that you work with. That main question in the center of the screen in red, how can I target support to be most effective? That affects all of the other things that you do. So knowing how to prioritize and target the support that you provide to be most effective. Well, you need a tool for that. You need a baton, right? So let's talk about what that might be. Some districts across the state are using something that looks like this as their baton. So the question is, how do teachers share their successes and barriers to implementation with you? And this can be any implementation of any innovation that's happening in your school. This kind of document is just built on the idea of a plus delta. We've been calling it the glows and grows based on a conversation that happened with a teacher who said, what we really need is just a glows and grows, right? To be able to share what's working and what's getting in the way of the work. Gathering this information from teachers helps to prioritize and target the support that they need so that we can be, as supporters of teachers, we can be effective in our support and we can be data-driven. So using a tool like the Glows and Grows provides data from teachers, right, that allows us to do our best work as their instructional leaders. We learn what's working, what barriers there are, what capacity building is needed, what is most relevant for our staff members. So suppose you're using this Glows and Grows document with your staff members and you get a lot of information about what is working. These are the kinds of things that are working for your staff. Then you can create a Google Doc, a gallery space, that your teachers can share these great implementation ideas that are working and create this community of practice for all of the glows, right? Where they can share their great implementation ideas in a systematic way that matters. You may also hear that, wow, we're having this same problem with technology over and over and over. And that gives you a way to problem solve that's effective and efficient. You may also hear that there are some scheduling or district policies that are getting in the way of the work, and you have the data behind that to make an informed decision. So that's what doing something like the Glows and Grows does for you as an administrator. It helps to target and provide information for your decision making. So first, I just want to say, we all want to say thank you for joining us today. That concludes our last section of our webinar. And we want to make sure that we have provided enough time for you to ask the questions that you want to ask. I'm sitting here next to Dr. Scrinzi, who's been typing away very quickly to ensure that she's been responding to your questions. So we wanted to mention that there are 3 additional webinars. We are thrilled that you joined us today for this first one and that you came back. had a little rocky start.
And the future webinars, they've already been corrected, so they're set up correctly. So when we start the webinar, audio will be enabled so that you'll be able to hear it from your computer. Thank you for patience. We all appreciate your patience with that, y'all.
We're good at learning from our errors. And we also, you know, we were just talking about being data-driven and glows and grows, and we have something we'd like for you to do for us. We have just a quick couple of questions on an evaluation form that we're going to push out to you. This will help us in the next 3 webinars in order to have the data that we need to continue to build those webinars. So this is our glows and grows that we, and so we're going to gather this data so that we can continue to best meet your needs. And Dr. Scrinzy is telling me that people want to see the contact information again, so we'll put that up on the screen.
So we want to go back to the slide with everybody's names?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And listen, you all, that's also on the Weebly that I showed earlier. If you'll go to that Weebly, there's a contacts page, and you can see all of them. Yep, we can do that. So here we go. I'm going to put it in presentation mode and take down these great numbers and contacts. So all of our email addresses for anybody up here at DPI, first name, dot last name. So like in Catherine Woodall's name here, it'd be catherine.woodall@dpi.nc.gov. So just we encourage you, any of these names, it's first name, dot last name at dpi.nc.gov.
And I'm just looking for the link to the evaluation form. I wonder if I can stick that in the chat box for them.
We're going to get that link to you right now because we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to tell us what information you still need to know. We've got these 3 more webinars coming up, and we're really excited to have a continued opportunity to provide more information to instructional leaders about supporting teachers with this process. But it'll be much more valuable for all of us if we are providing information that we know you need. And we really value the input to help us make decisions about what information to share in the next 3 webinars in the series. So please take a minute to complete that. And if you have found this information helpful today, tell your friends. Make sure that the next time you are with other administrators and instructional leaders that you share the information with them so that they can join us in the future as well.
So we're going to close by wishing you all a successful school year and continue to encourage you to reach out to us as your regional consultants. Have a great afternoon.